Hey everyone, Mr. Happy here, and in this video we're going to be doing an overview of Live Letter 90 XC. This is the patch 7.4 part 2 live letter. So the overview is mostly just going to be covering the things that they spoke about and showed in game. The part 1 live letter is usually all the basic details. Part 2 is a little bit of an expansion on it, plus some in-game looks at how everything is actually going to work. So they started with the trailer. I've already posted a separate trailer reaction. I only posted the JP one. It was like another 5 to 10 minutes before we watched the English one, but it was a really good trailer. And there's one particular part of it, especially towards the end, that I was pumped when I heard it. And I was more pumped when I heard more about it. And we'll get to that in this coverage. So as a reminder, patch 7.4 is going to be releasing December 16th with Savage being delayed until January 6th in order to skip the holiday season. There will be minimal upgrades to the amount of like balancing that needs to be done for that. Generally, they know not everyone's a week 1 raider. Not everyone expects the super hard experience across the tier. So it's not going to be like completely compensated for all the extra gear. I don't expect it to be that tough of a tier in terms of actual DPS requirements, but I don't expect it to be a pushover mechanically. I expect it to be mostly in line with, what we usually get. They did a little bit of a recap, and this is, of course, new tombstones will be on the 16th. Arcadian tier normal will be on the 16th, new craftable gear on the 16th, so we'll have plenty of weeks to get all that stuff before Savage actually comes out. They then just did a brief description. They like rewatch through and do commentary for the trailers. You could say, Mercenary's Tale looks like Kingdom Hearts. There's a little Dragon Radar looking thing. Scary Thomas is the name for Doom Train. That is their favorite thing to call him. I think Terrifying Thomas would be better because it's got the alliteration. That sounds like a Final Fantasy XI boss if you were to ask me. But Scary Thomas is a great description for Doom Train, and we're going to stick with that one. They showed off they're going to show off the new PvP map a little bit later. Hildy does an Akira slide, of course, has to happen. And then, of course, talking about the BGMs. Trailer for wrestling. Yeah, it was a really, really good trailer. So going into the details, of course, they start with a bit of a recap. There's going to be new main scenario quests. There's, the new dungeon, which is part of the MSQ. There will be, if you do use duty support to do the dungeon, you will get that raising buff. Yeah, they talked about that new quality of life, where if you die, you get that gradually increasing raising buff when you're using duty support. And, that's going to be in this one. Scary looking train there, Scary Thomas right there, which they said is going to be a lot different. They did not show it during the actual live letter because they spent a lot of time doing other stuff, but they did talk a little bit about it. The face will draw your attention, but don't forget the other parts. Depending on the phase, it will feel very different. It's going to be a bit of a memory game. Where did something disappear? Where did it place a new container? I think once you get it down, it will feel smooth. And the trailer showed a lot of really cool things for the fight too, so I'm excited to see what it is they're going to actually be doing. They also confirmed, or reconfirmed, I should say, that A, it will have 2 totems, and B, they're going to be looking at the exchange rates in the future and seeing if they need to be redone. It honestly makes sense. 99 totems is, I understand wanting to give players something, a bit of a grind to work on, but the number 99 is annoying because if you're giving 2 totems each time and it's 99 totems for the mount, you have 1 left over. So if it's going to be 50 runs to get the mount, you might as well just make it 1 totem and make it 50 totems. So you don't have the extra. It just makes more sense. And then you have to adjust everything else around it as well. But yeah, I mean, it definitely needs a review. At the bare minimum, something like that. But that's, whatever. All the same, it's 2 totems, and for now, it'll be as it has been. They briefly touched on the Arcadian here, but they'll talk about it a bit more later. Reminded us that Tsukiyomi Unreal is the next one. So, go do it after you've done everything else for the patch. War Core Cherte, which is the new mode called Triumph. So we had all the S modes, and then we had Onsal Hakar, and now we have Triumph. I'll give you the TLDR now, what they showed later. It's like Onsal Hakar, I think is how it's pronounced. It's like Onsal, but like slightly different is how I would describe it, which I guess I'll talk about a little bit more later. They reminded us there will be the new Air Force One, the Sedalis, which they said was too easy in testing, and they had to make some slight adjustments afterwards. And so, yeah, that's going to be a new gate that you can get. Of course, the Glamour update, being able to glam anything and everything other than weapons and race-specific armors. There's also been a lot of questions about Grand Company armors. I assume those will still be restricted based on the Grand Company you're in, but I don't think they've made any official statement. And if that is the case, I don't expect that to be forever. That's just my own, my own little tidbit I'm adding in there, but I guess we'll see. Strategy board, which they did a whole huge section on, and I'm very excited to talk about that because it looks great. And then we had the command panel, which in my opinion, they spent a little too much time on, but it is going to be a useful feature, so I can understand why they're doing it. Some extra features for controller players as well. Yeah, I didn't pay too much attention during the controller part, so hopefully the translations for this are good. Oh, I forgot to mention, these are unofficial translations from the Final Fantasy XIV Reddit Discord. So if you go over to the Final Fantasy XIV subreddit, just click Discord and it's in the translations and live letter tabs. Thank you to Miyuna and Aluna Minori. I'm so excited to talk about it. I totally forgot to thank the people who put in all the work this morning. So thank you to both of them for putting this together. Some other recap stuff. Occult Crescent, 3 new Phantom jobs. That's Mystic Knight, Dancer, and Gladiator. And those new accessories that are being added in. And of course, duty support being added to Zamiel and Ormvale. And then the new UI color themes, clear green and clear white. I think you're wild to use clear or white, but do you. Now, there was also a random announcement for Deep Dungeon. There's been a lot of DDoS attacks as of late. And, you know, that kind of sucks if you're a Deep Dungeon player. Because if you all disconnect from a Deep Dungeon, it kicks you out, whether you're alone or with 4 people. If everyone disconnects, then your save file just gets obliterated. They're finally fixing it. After like a decade of us trying to get them to fix it, they're finally fixing it. Now, if you are disconnected while soloing a deep dungeon, or if your entire party is disconnected during a group run, you can resume your progress by logging back in within 10 minutes, provided no one has been KO'd. That last bit is important. If you're solo, you need to survive being disconnected. So if the monster kills you before your character fully disconnects, that's going to count as a wipe. I'm assuming if you have a raising palm, that unless you have really unfortunate timing, that it would consume it and get you back up for the disconnect. I don't know that for certain, but that's what I'm assuming. But more importantly, if you're playing with a group of people and all remaining party members disconnect while someone is KO'd, it will still kick you out. So that means that even during a group run, if somebody dies during the disconnect process, it will count for everyone. That part is a little weird to me. It tells me that this is very jankily thrown together. And I hope they look at it and improve it a little bit more. But in the general sense, if you just randomly disconnect while not doing anything, you should mostly be fine. It's going to call into question how fast players can disconnect, because it takes a long time to disconnect sometimes in Final Fantasy XIV. So I would actually like them to revisit how fast it kicks your character off the server, if they can actually update that. Because this update doesn't matter as much if it still takes a really long time to disconnect, because that just increases your odds. A patrol walks by and kills you, an AoE targets you and kills you. Something can kill you. It's very, very easy for something to kill you while you're disconnecting. So, yeah, we'll see what it is. And it also means if you were on like floor 189 and you pulled like a monster, you're not getting to keep that save file. Like, that monster is going to kill you during the disconnect time. There's just no chance that that's going to happen. So this might still need some more revisiting, but it's a start at the very least. It'll save your life if you disconnected at kind of like an innocent time, if that makes sense. But not if you're like in the middle of a boss or something, because you would have died anyway. Then they have, of course, Oasis, which they didn't really talk too much about. It's in 7.41, which we don't know the exact timing on because we don't know how it factors in with the Savage delay. I don't think it would be right alongside Savage. I think it'd be right after that, but we don't really have all that information. We actually got a preview of some of the new weapons. I don't think they've ever done this, or if they have, they haven't done it in a very long time. These are some of the new Phantom weapons. So you can see we have Picto and Astro. They look really good, and they're not as basic. Most of us expected very basic looking weapons because we usually go from like a non-glowing to a glowing to a non-glowing to a glowing. And these are definitely still glowing. And they're very different from the ones that we currently have. They're nice looking weapons. I do like what they've put together for these two. So off to a good start. 2 out of 2 for decent looking relics coming out of the Phantom Weapon quest line in the next one. When the glow starts, there are lighting effects, all thanks to the graphics update. Cool. Variant dungeon, they'll show that later. Hildebrand, of course, will be, in the patch. They're not going to show any of that. It means there's a black and white scene, but why? There are only certain scenarios where black and white is used, right? Let's start with the new raid tier. So, we're just going to enter the instance. So, they actually started by showing us M10 or heavyweight M2. And there's a good reason for that. They started with this fight because, as many of us predicted, This is a tag team match where we're going to be going up against the Surfer Bros from the artwork. We have Red Hot and Deep Blue, and they are going to be tagging in and out and also fighting us at the same time. So yeah, they are the Surfer Bros, as you can see right here. They got their swim trunks on. I like to call them Surfing Ifrit, and I guess yeah. I mean, honestly, it reminds me of the Amalja and the Sahagins, but I don't think they had those on the 9th. So I wonder what monsters these actually are. It could be an ogre and a Sahagin is still absolutely possible, but I'm wondering what the fire dude on the right actually is, because I mean, actually they do have summons in Final Fantasy IX. It could be Ifrit and Leviathan still. That's very possible. Makes sense. And they are heavyweight, so I do expect them to be taking really powerful monsters to boot. And then they just showed a few basic mechanics, you know, him in normal mode aiming some AoEs at you and leaving fire behind and then washing it all away, and then the other surfer dude coming in and washing him back with a giant wave. So he just makes his own waves, and then he surfs them and then knocks you back, etc., etc. Their HP bar is shared, which is something that they pointed out. So they together are one health bar, not two separate health bars. Who knows if there's a mechanic later that changes that? But I'm pretty sure the buff that's right here is letting you know that they have a shared health pool, and that's like the intent of it. It could have another intent later, but this is a buff that both of them have. That, you know, I'm assuming it means if one of them's defeated, the others are defeated. Play something don't usually play. Yeah, so then they just showed that. They showed some of the armor sets, which are sticking with a similar theme to the other ones. These ones are a little bit like kind of across the very Metal Gear Solid-y, as somebody said, for the actual armor pieces. And then the weapons are like the high-tech stuff, which I actually really like the weapons. I like the weapons more than the armor sets, in all honesty. The high-tech weapons. They're kind of like better versions of the non-glowy Mandervilles to me, with a little bit more personality. Solid samurai sword, of course. And I literally have a Nerf gun that looks exactly like that. That is a Nerf gun. You cannot... I know that it's not, because I probably have that exact gun in Armored Core as well. But I literally have that Nerf gun in my garage. So I know that it's that one. The Viper swords, which I actually think look very, very cool. I don't know what to think about the Sage. Dude, you can't show Sage Newliths head on. I don't know what they are. You need to see them from like an angle. You know what I mean? It doesn't work. You can't show me that. And then the Black Mage staff. The Black Mage staff looks kind of weird. I'm not a huge fan of the Black Mage staff. But we have the Glam restrictions now, so you don't need to use that weapon, and then you can use whatever armor it actually looks like that you want to use. And there are other armors. There are definitely other armors available in this patch. Now, here was where a big announcement came out. Nobody saw this one coming. This was on Zero People's bingo card. A song created by award-winning artists will be featured in the Arcadian Heavyweight tier. This is the final song from the trailer, and apparently Tom Morello from Rage Against the Machines just sent Soken a song one day and said, "Hey, Jason Charles Miller said you really love my music, and we play board games together, so I made you a song." They didn't even... Soken literally just got an email from Tom Morello that said, "I made this for you." And they didn't even play. They were like, "Well, we don't know where to use it in game." Like, they didn't plan like, "Oh, can you make us this thing for us?" And so they were just like, "Well, what do we do with it?" We just have a song from Tom Morello just for the game. And as you can see, Soken was very excited about it. And they were like worried about legal and like how they use it. And Tom Morello was like, no, don't worry about money. Just use it. That's it. That was just how it happened, apparently. So yeah, they were talking about that the entire time. It's called Everything Burns, and it also features Caleb Shomo from Beartooth doing the vocals. And the music is Tyler Smith and Tom Morello. And in case you didn't know, Tom Morello, he plays the guitar. So, in case you didn't know that. So that's, if you listen to the song at the end, that will be the thing. So listen to, we're assuming that's not the last fight in the tier. Here's the thing. That song sounds like it belongs to the final fight in a tier, but I'm assuming it's the Heavyweight Champions theme and not the M12. I'm assuming the Heavyweight Champions M11 and the President/CEO is M12. And I feel like that song might be a little too hardcore for whoever it is, even whether it's Matem or someone else, who knows. I feel like it would just belong to the champion, But yeah, well, this song, and then it'll be, you can actually pre-save it on streaming services now. I'm pretty sure they shared like a link to the song right here. I think if you go to that link, you can also choose to pre-save it for your streaming service. So go do that, I suppose. And not to mention there'll be an orchestrion roll in game, and I'm sure it'll be on albums and stuff. So yeah, that was a pretty hype thing just to find out about that. PvP updates, of course, Series 10, PvP action updates, and also a reminder that they are bringing back some old Feast reward sets. Replicas of gear awarded for ranked positions in Season 1 and 2 of the Feast have a different color palette, so they are changing it slightly. So if you have the original set, while it is going to be updated to have 2 dye channels, the replicas and the originals do look different because the dyes will affect different parts. But if you missed the Wolf and Eagle Gear Series sets, you can find them, you know, on the console games wiki. I made a video showcasing all the old PvP rewards. Only the armor so far. I hope they decide to do the mounts, and I hope they do something similar where it looks a little different than the original. If they're going to do it at all, I figure they might as well do it that way. So the new frontline map / campaign, War Corps Cherte. Frontline's a 72-player mode with the 3 grand companies, and they said this is a very offensively driven mode where basically, in order to score, you have to go to a point, and at that point will be 3 or 4 mini points that you have to control. When you control all the mini points around the major point, you cap that point, and then you can go to the next one. So it's kind of like on Sol in that once you cap the point, you don't need to defend it. But you do need to control all of the points around it in order to capture it. So there's no interactables this time. You just need to be standing in the section, and just needs to be people belonging to your team standing in the little mini sections, which is what these little bits are right here that we saw from the trailer, that we saw from the preview site, all that. And then obviously the ones with more sides, like the diamond shape, those are worth more points as well. So I'm not wild about the whole take a point and don't defend it thing. I much prefer having to defend a point. It's a whole factor of PvP that is like, it shouldn't kind of be ignored, in my opinion. That being said, I understand that they want people to feel like, I'm done here, let me just go to the next spot, not let me just stay here and either I get like picked off by an army, or, you know, something happens. I understand what they're working against, but I think that this is a problem with Frontlines. Having people defend specific locations works when you have less people better than when you have 72 people on a map. So I think that it's largely a result of that. I know more people also really enjoy just going forward and attacking nonstop, but I feel like this is too similar to Onsal Hakar, and at the same time, just once again forgoes a major point of it. It's probably still going to be fun. Onsal is fun, and Seas are fun. Seas is my favorite mode in the game. But I would really like them to cut down on the number of people, you know, maybe do another 2-team mode and just do like 10 people on each side, or, you know, even 15 people on each side. I don't think every mode needs to be 72 players and feature 3 teams. I don't even like the 3 teams. That's like the one thing I don't like about Frontlines. I hate the whole 3-team thing. So that's my opinion, though. Still probably going to be a decent time. Another thing in your Frontline roulette, another way to ignore rival wings. They are absolutely nailing it on making sure nobody ever thinks of doing rival wings outside of Moogle Tome events. They are nailing that part home for certain. Then this is just more explanations of the same rules. You cap the flag when everyone's in there, and then he zones in and just kind of runs around the map a little bit, so he gets to see the map. There are also weather conditions that can occur that have different effects on the map. For example, when the ice mode occurs, we saw this on the preview site, the snowmen appear. The snowmen act as line of sight, so it creates line of sight around all of the points. They also spawn these ice AoEs that when they fully expand, give everyone inside a shield. So those allow you to kind of play around the point a bit more strategically, try to get a little bit more of a defensive edge, or keep people from getting a defensive edge. And then there's what they call the reversal mode, where there is the Northern Lights. And during the Northern Lights, everyone's limit break gauge charges super fast around the map. And pretty much the only things that spawn are like the diamond points. So like the things that are worth the most points. So if you have some really good limit break uses, you can take some of those points very quickly and then kind of swing the map back the other way. They're trying to create, just like the opportunity for a team to actually pull off a reversal. The limit break gauge is going to be insane because some of the combos you can do with your limit break charging as fast as it was is going to be intense, to say the least. So yeah, you can kind of get an idea for it. So he uses his limit break and then triggers it. And I know it's kind of hard to tell, but in the time that he runs from, well, unfortunately, the way it's zoomed, if you see on the mini map, he's about here and he's going to run to here. His limit break gauge is like not even close to full. By the time he like gets to the thing, his limit break gauge is almost full. So he walked there. He didn't mount up and go there, but even still, it charges very, very quickly. So that's how that mode is going to go. And I assume the snowman mount will be from 100 wins. We don't know what the series reward is going to be yet. It could be there, but I bet it's 100 wins on the new map and then 300 wins for some sort of title. That's usually how it goes. And then they briefly showed off the Glamour update. I mean, we all functionally understand how this works, right? You can glam anything. Like, so yeah, he shows Black Mage in a warrior top, which, not going to lie, still looks like a Black Mage top to me. So works fittingly. Then they had this set right here, and then he swapped to Reaper, and then as a Reaper went in gathering gear. So the botanist from hell, which, you know, lore accurate Reaper outfit as far as I'm concerned. So yeah, they just showed all of that. That's very easy to go down a rabbit hole. They're also making an update to outfit Glamour. So this was the feature they added last patch, where you can basically bundle the entire thing from a set and then store it as one item. What they're doing now is you don't need to store the whole set if you don't have it. So let's say you had 3 pieces out of a 5-piece set. You could store those 3 pieces as the set. And then if you get one of the other 2 remaining pieces, you just insert it in. So you don't need to like pull it all out and put it all back in. That's okay, but it doesn't preserve the dies whenever you do that, if I recall correctly. So if they're trying to free up more space, this is still kind of like a Band-Aid solution. It would be better if it could save the dies, or if there was because like you can do that and then dye it in the Glamour plate itself. So that's like maybe how they intend to use it. But the fact that it takes the dye off of it is not going to be kosher for everybody. So it's a matter of, does it actually like work with you, work against your individual way of actually using it. But it should make it a little bit more usable as a whole. They're also adding certain class and job exclusive gear, starting gear, and fashion gear other than level 1. You can treat those as outfit glamours as well. So there's just more sets that can be stored this way, which should free up some more space inside of your actual glam dresser, especially for those of you who keep all the sets that look like that kind of stuff. And then this was them just showcasing the grouped items again, like we talked about last time. Then they decided to show off new crafted battle gear. It's very lovey-dovey. As you can see, this is a Reaper of Hearts. This is a scythe with a big heart in it, and then that's the actual armor set. These are Love Fists, hate that name, with a very, you know, very pink outfit here. I mean, you can dye it, obviously, but I think these are the default colors. You have the Love Discs, and then you have another set here. This top, I think, is going to be really popular amongst a lot of people. I'll be completely honest with you. And the swords are actually nice. These ones, obviously, they still have the heart symbol there, but like I actually really like those swords. And then you have the Love Staff, also not a good name for it, and this healer set. And then Red Mage with the Love Focus, and then the actual, you know, recolor for the caster set as well. Are you really fine with glamming a non-HQ piece on the Warrior of Light that you love? Are you really okay with that? And that was where they cut the first half. Also, that Yan is staring into my soul in the back right there. Holy moly. By the way, I need someone to make this a green screen meme format immediately, because that's just wonderful. I mean, that screams green screen meme format if I've ever seen one before. It's just both of them looking back at something. That's a good one. We really like our Final Fantasy XIV meme format. So I can say it's funny because they have the small Yan here, but I imagine if they had the big Yan in the back, just my tanks during M6. Or yeah, when the 14 team discovers WoW housing. Or Doom Train coming up behind them. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of good ones. They took a short break after that and then moved on to Merchant's Tale. I mean, they showed us how Merchant's Tale works. They reiterated all the things they told us in the last one. The one thing they didn't show us, the rewards. Listen, they know. they know rewards were one of the biggest problems with it before. So the fact they haven't, like, you just like one sentence is all we needed, was some sort of acknowledgement about it. Because now I have to be afraid for the next 2.5 months while we wait for it. Like, I love Criterion and the bosses, but you need that part to work. Like, just anyway, you can tell where I'm at mentally with that one. They showed off how variant works. You know, they go down the path. There's a new UI element for picking the path for this particular dungeon as well. There's like a drop down here where you can vote on the path instead of having to like walk onto a specific spot. So there is that. And then they just showcased, you know, some of the decisions you can make or not make, and the transition to another map as the storybook actually flips. And then you go over here to the next one. And then we have, you know, the boss and some of the trash and all this stuff right here. And then they just showed Yoshi P dying to a boss and then giving up and quitting, and we'll never forget that. And then they showed down the second path where he could actually beat the boss, so we clearly know why he went down the second path. And then, yeah, just him doing a bunch of mechanics and walking around the dungeon, showing off all the visuals. I mean, obviously, just the screenshots look nice, but there's not much for me to really say about it. And then they briefly queued into Advanced, which you're not supposed to be able to do alone. It's designed for 2 to 4 people, but he's a dev, so he has the power to do that kind of stuff. And so he was able to just go through and show us some of the boss, some really basic mechanics and the level of punishment that's going to be coming with most of this stuff. And then, you know, that's it. I mean, he just showed how you can pick a boss, go to it, queue into it. He just showed all the basics for it, you know, like just what the fights look like and how the system works, like exactly what we were told. But that, I'm going to need 1 second. Sorry, that's going in the recording. My cat here. Now you have to be a part of the video. This cat was screaming outside my door. This cat would not stop screaming. Look at her. She's now a part of the record. This is the cat tax right here. Sausage likes being in here. See? This is part of the overview now. The big floof. Yeah, Saucy? Okay, now we can go back to this. Anyway, and then he dies to a mechanic because he can't do it alone. Like, you need to be able to do it. You need a second person to do it. They reminded people about the variant actions, which work in normal mode and advanced mode, which there's one new action, variant Eagle Eye Shot, which just does a ton of damage. It's very similar to the Eagle Eye Shot from Eureka, I'd assume. It probably doesn't do more damage the lower the enemy health. Maybe it does. I don't know. It doesn't say that's what it does. But these you can take. You pick 2 of them and bring them. They can help you solo. They can help kill the boss faster if you're doing it with other people. So I assume most people soloing will probably take Cure and Rampart if they're non-tanks. Or I'm sorry, they'll take Cure if they're a tank, Rampart if they're a non-tank, and then you'll mess around with the other stuff. As a tank, I'd probably just take Eagle Eye Shot and Cure, in all honesty, if I was soloing. Maybe Spirit Dart for the trash instead of Eagle Eye Shot for the bosses. I'm not 100% sure which I would rather go with. But you do get these in advance as well. But in Criterion, the only variant action you get is Variant Raise 2, which can be used once per boss encounter in order to res an ally. And that's the only way to resurrect allies. Now I've got cat hair in my mouth because of sausage. God. This is very much in line with the original Criterion. The big thing with the new Criterion, though, is that there's no trash. It's still boss 1, boss 2, boss 3 in order, as opposed to Variant Advanced, where it's 3 separate bosses and you can pick the order that you want to do them in. But there's no trash, which disappoints me a little bit. But honestly, I don't even care about talking about trash because I still don't know what the rewards are. Seriously, why couldn't you have just one sentence is all it would have taken? Just be like, and we know that people had feedback about rewards before, so we made sure to do more for this one. That's all you had to say. You didn't even have to tell me what it was. All you had to do was just say something like that. And it would have been clear. Now everyone's going to be worried about it for months. You're going to have to make like a separate post or something just to like calm people's nerves when it comes to the reward structure for that. Because they acknowledged it in the 7.5x Criterion when they added new rewards to Savage, but that wasn't I don't want to get caught up on it too much. We'll see. We'll find out for ourselves. And if they don't do it right, then we're going to yell at them again, and we'll just hope it actually sticks this time. How about that? Command panel. They just showed using it. Like, again, it's really hard for me to describe most of this. It works exactly as it's shown. Like, there's, 4 separate pages of 25 actions each, and you can use it for realistically anything. Like, you can put all your emotes on there, your job swaps on there. I mean, you could put your rotation on there if you wanted. It's probably not going to be a great time, but it is what it is. You can adjust the window color and some of the settings. You can choose to have quick options to get to pages 1, 2, 3, and 4. You can also change some of the ways that it displays. So yeah, he just has to add a bunch of stuff to it. When you open it, check the settings, close window on action. So the options, those 4 options there that you have tick marks for, close window on action. So it means that as soon as you execute any action in the command window, it'll close. If you turn that off, it won't close. So you can leave it up all the time. Second is open panel where your cursor is. So that means anytime you do turn it on, your cursor will be there immediately, which means the center action, you would automatically be hovering over. So in theory, you could use that to very quickly gain access to an emote you want to spam or something that you click very frequently that you think the command panel will be good for. To me, that's kind of strange, only because wouldn't I just put it on my hotbar in that case? But I mean, I guess if the whole point is to save space, you probably wouldn't do that. The third option is open last panel used. So if you exited on panel 3, you turned it off on panel 3, when you turn it back on, it would still be on panel 3 if you turn this on. Or if you turn it off, it would go back to panel 1. And then lock the panel, which I'm assuming is just so you can't actually change anything that's on there. I assume that's like locking your hotbar. So then it just shows him using all these features. Option 2, adjust it to your cursor position. With minimal movement, mouse players will be able to open this. Should allow for a lot of variety on how to use it. You could do that for your limit break even if you're afraid, but I guess it's same problem. You probably would just put it on your hotbar at that point, but I guess it depends on how people feel comfortable using it. You could use the ether compass. Yeah, they give it just a few options here. Option 3, do not open the emote log. Well, there were supposed to be things here. So I have gear sets on panel 1, actions in panel 2. Since I have it set to open same panel again, I also have the enabled option to close the window on action. When I emote, it closes. When I open it again, it goes back to the panel that had the emote. So you can set each panel separately on your hotbar, and if it centers around my mouse, I can lolly-ho as much as I want. Then he just quickly showed it on cross hotbar. He puts it on his cross hotbar from the extras in your action list. Subcommand list, you will have just set an action on your hotbar. It has an additional menu now to put it on the command panel. And from there, you can open the subcommands again to move it onto the panel. Left, right buttons to swap between the panels while he's watching players' events. And man, some controller players are insane with their speeds. There is one extra setting. Press Y for cursor speed up on Xbox. So the PlayStation and whatever other controller equivalent. Why do I feel like one of my... Hey, what are you causing trouble for? I'll have to go stop sausage. This is... Dude, Kat, she's off screen doing something. I'm not going to worry about it right now. Get to a point where muscle memory allows you to open whatever you're looking for. Okay. Command panel, they showed it. It worked as you would expect with a few extra settings that, they want you to familiarize yourself with. And finally, the strategy board. There's a lot riding on this because they have delayed this feature a lot in order to make it so that it is very functional and is very useful. And I can say, very optimistic after what they showed. It seemed like they thought of everything, and they even thought of things I didn't think of. They went beyond what I was originally expecting it to do, and I'm very glad that they did that. So by default, it saves up to 50 strategies. We're going to put an asterisk next to that because there's an expansion on that later. Create folders, each containing up to 10 strategies. So you can start a fresh one, and you can see he's got a bunch of them saved for a bunch of different mechanics. You can put the symbols, you can put the AoEs on the ground, and then you can choose to edit it. There's also presets if you want to make a new one. So there's like a clock spot preset, for example, they have here. And then there's also markers that you can set as presets. One northwest, one northeast. You can do that. But these are you don't have to use the presets. You can make it entirely from scratch. But if you're like, oh, it's a clock spot thing, let me just make a quick preset and then do everything I need to do for this particular one. You can do that. And it makes a lot of sense. Form of arena, boss model, party spreads, and waymarks. Just all parts of the preset that you can do. You can also obviously change the symbols and all that other stuff manually on top of having the preset as well. So it just showed them doing like, a few basic positions. You've got the markers around the outside. You've got the markers close to the middle. You've still got markers close to the middle again with one northeast and one northwest. So yeah, they've got all the things you can... And again, this is just the really basic stuff. Spreads, Yoshida style. Well, love that. You can choose to highlight a specific one, which represents you. That would be the best way to actually use it, would be to have, oh, I'm this position in this strategy board. So like, you pick D1, D2, whatever. You can remember which one it is. And then you can leave this open while you're in the middle of the fight for whatever strategy it is. And you can reference it and know exactly where you are and where you're supposed to be. In Japan, every DPS uses DPS marker D1 through 4, but EUNA sometimes do ranged or melee, so we made sure that we had different markers for everything, so regionally it can be used for everyone. You can add objects, you can undo choices. They have a few like basic things prepared, some object lists. Now at first I looked at this and I went, oh, that's like only a handful of options. Why are my cats causing so much trouble? Sausage, what are you trying to do over there? You're gonna hurt someone. Ideally no one, but most likely yourself. You don't even know what you're doing over there. My cat is causing so much trouble. Are you trying to get down? Don't hurt yourself. Don't hurt yourself. Okay, good job, Sausage. Cat's safe. But you can actually modify quite a few functions on each of these. So for example, they pulled up this is a donut AoE. You can't even see the donut in the center because the center hole is so small. But you can actually edit the parameters. You can rotate it. You can change the AoE size, how far out it reaches, how narrow it is, how big the donut space is. So you can make it something that's a lot more accurate than, what we initially saw, which was a very particular type of donut. And then you can just add things like he has an AoE hitting the southeast, and then there's a gaze AoE coming from the north, and then there's a donut AoE around the boss. So then he wants to move all the different rolls to put them inside the donut while dodging the attack and looking away from the gaze AoE. So you can edit the different layers, you can change the opacity, you can do all of that stuff. And it does basically everything you'd want it to do. You can even add text. Now, adding text is a very crucial thing. Let's say that somebody shares a raid plan with you, a strategy board with you, and you're like, man, I always forget this one thing. You can add text to a shared strategy board that you have and save it locally, and type out a reminder for yourself, make sure you do this, or hold twos during this mechanic, or whatever. You can add little reminders that are personal to yourself, even if you're using a strategy board that is generally well known around the rest of the community, instead of having it typed up in Notepad or on a separate monitor on your phone, which is what a lot of people actually do. You can also, do things like different types of markers here, rotations, there's the PlayStation markers, and then all the rotated parameters and stuff all work for this as well. And yeah, you can see he just adds a little text reminder for himself right there. And then we get to look at some of the creations. These are some existing fights. You have Seiryu Unreal. You have, that one on the right, I forget exactly which fight it is, but you could even do that for there's a lot of fights that work 3 spreads and then the tank separate. There's a lot of fights that work like that. And then you have Necron in the bottom left. I forget who that is in the bottom right. My brain, I know, but my brain is blanking out on this one. And then you have something a little bit more unique. In the top left, we have Endsinger. Now, they specifically stated they did not include Endsinger's arena. This was actually made from scratch, basically, by the dev team to replicate what Endsinger's arena would look like. So with the tools, you can make it look like any arena in the game. It doesn't just have to be that basic checkerboard. It's just that point, your creativity and your ability to make it comes into play. You've got Valagarmanda in the top right. You've got, M7 in the bottom left. You have Revolutionary Reign from M8 in the bottom right. I'm sorry, not Endsinger, Eternal Queen. I don't know why I kept saying Endsinger. I meant to say Eternal Queen. That's from Sphene. Queen Eternal, not even Eternal Queen. Yeah, that's Queen Eternal. That's the wind phase. And then Valgarman and the other ones I got right. So you can do all sorts of stuff with it. So as you can see, it's not just hope it's a circle or a square and it's done. You can make anything work realistically. Yeah, so they apparently made this with line AoEs and changing the, opacity and the colors of it in order to make it work. There's also toggling between 2 sets of icons to represent the DPS roles, which again, they mentioned earlier, D1 through 4 and M1, M2, R1, R2. And then you can also share them. You can screen share strategy boards while editing them. So you basically send someone a share request in game, and then as you move the spots, they'll see you move the spots. So you can actively like show people, oh, like during this mechanic, you'd move from here to here. Or, you know, what do you think we should do? Like collaboratively come up with like a strategy board with you and your team. Even if you, again, have a strategy board that you've taken from someone else, if somebody needs additional help or wants to make discussions on things to change, maybe that's like better for your specific group, you can absolutely do that and share it within your group in game. So this was them like taking the Serio Unreal one and then in real time moving it and showing how it ends up working. So like that screen 1 on the left, screen 2 on the right. So you just gradually see it's like delayed by like half a second behind, but it will show all of the movements and the actual movements. It won't just like teleport from spot to spot. So that's incredibly useful. Really glad to see that interactive part. That is something that is beyond what the external raid plans can do, where most people just pull up paint and just, or whatever, Miro boards or whatever, and just start doing it there. And it's kind of but that is a very good way of doing it from within your group. Now, of course, sharing it, strategy boards can be sent to all party members with the touch of a button. And this is the important bit. I put an asterisk next to the 50 strategy boards earlier because those are 50 permanent strategy boards. You can actually store up to 20 temporary boards, which if you don't want to keep them, you don't have to. But when you're going in and out of Party Finder, and people are giving you boards that way, you don't like, those aren't going to take up your 50 spaces. These are just going to be ones that you use temporarily for the group that you're actually in. So then you can choose, oh, is this worth saving? Great. So it's 20 temporary and 50 permanent ones. So that works really good. I mean, that clearly shows like a static culture and a PF culture and the mix of the two in between. So that's also a very good thing that you can do. You can also share codes online. You can just like basically make a code and then post it on like Reddit or Discord. And then somebody goes in game and pastes the code and then it'll just load it for them automatically. I already got the merch idea. I'm going to go to Fanfest and I'm just going to have the Happy Brambles raid code on my shirt that everyone can then go to because that's funny. And I hate it. And now I have to do it. So we already had this discussion on my Twitch streams. Now I just need the Happy Brambles raid code just printed on my thing. Just get a QR code on the front and the raid code on the back, or just put the QR code on the front and have it take you to the raid code or whatever. I can do it. Let me scan your shirt for a strategy, smile. There you go. But you can keep these codes. Oh, and also, let's say you want to keep a code, but you don't want it to take up your permanent storage. In theory, you could just keep these codes handy somewhere, and then if you ever need them, go load them up and be like, oh, okay, that was just like, we literally can have like a permanent strategy board, like, I guess, coalition in a sense. Like you just pull them all together, and then we can basically have the most popular strats for every mechanic really easily saved somewhere as like a community. And if they're ever needed, that can be a really useful thing for the future. So from a community aspect, really enjoy that. Keep a record, share a code. You can re-import a strategy board as many times as you like, even after deleting the original. Yeah, strategy board looks great. I do have some concerns about it still. The big thing with the strategy board right now, at least from what they've shown, is you'll have one strategy board on the screen at a time. Raid plans often have like 5, 6, 7, 8 of them kind of tied together. And then you click next, 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 next. You can, in theory, still achieve that by making a folder and then putting all the pieces to the mechanic in the folder. But doing that mid-fight, probably not as good. So I wonder what the effective use, of going through any of the mid-fight is going to be. It doesn't really change anything for me. I've never once gone through like a raid plan in the middle of a fight and started clicking through them. I usually have one diagram as a reminder for the mechanic I'm currently learning, and that's it. Like, I've never done more, but I'm not everyone. I'm just saying personally, to me, I don't see that as a concern, but I've seen that concern raised. So I'm curious to see if they come up with a feature like that, or if you can choose to like maybe do a play feature for your strategy boards, like when you pull the boss, it starts playing, and then you have like timers coded in so that X number of seconds, the next board will load, etc., etc. Like they could do something like that. and then you have it actually rotating through. There's room for more features, but what we have here is excellent. I think the actual thing that sets it apart the most is the ability to do that screen share method of using it, because that's something that is really specific to using the in-game board and is much more intuitive than the way that most teams currently do it. I do think there's other ways to expand it, but that is a video for another time. They even talked about holding a contest to see who could design mechanics with the strategy board. I don't know what the winner gets in that case. Did they get to make a fight? Speaking of which, we're coming to the announcement section. So Fan Festival 2026 in Berlin, website and ticket details. The ticket applications for player exclusive tickets will be Friday, February 6th. And then in July will be the actual thing at Hub 27 in Berlin, Germany. The website has all the details, so there's the QR code for that. I still have cat hair in my mouth and I'm getting annoyed. JP FanFest details will be at a later date. The woman in charge of the cash shop is too powerful. Fantasian Neo Dimension, which is Hironobu Sakaguchi's most recent game, originally was released exclusively to the Apple Store and is now available on a bunch of platforms as Neo Dimension. Square Enix did the publishing for Neo Dimension. They're doing cash shop collaborations. This is very much like the Ivalice Chronicles one that we had a couple months ago, but these are three of the protagonists, Leo, Kina, and Cheryl. And this is the hairstyle. This is the outfit. So attire set inspired by Leo, Kina, and Cheryl's outfits will be available on the online store along with their respective hairstyles and emotes. So you can see that like emote with Cheryl doing the thing. Yeah, that's going to be there. And that'll be on patch. She is strong. And also I'd like to say, yeah, this was Business Division 3 or Creative Studio 3 also did Neo Dimension. So not really too surprising. They did the same with Ivalice Chronicles. So the stuff that their own division is working on seems to be getting this kind of treatment. I wonder how much it will continue into the future, because most people probably would have just liked there to have been an event and not to buy it on the store, especially given I remember the Ivalice Chronicles one where like if you bought all three, it was like more expensive than Ivalice Chronicles. I don't buy anything off the online store. So, you know, I speak with my wallet on that one, but I know some of you see a hairstyle and you get feral. So they know. Then they briefly supported the advanced rulebook for Stormblood for the tabletop RPG. That's going to be cool to see. More rulebooks. I heard that the base tabletop RPG was pretty good, and now they have the Stormblood one, and they're now accepting pre-orders for it. And then there's also going to be a permanent Final Fantasy XIV merchandise store opening up in Akiba on December 19th in Japan. So if you're traveling to Japan, you can go to the Final Fantasy XIV merch store now. I forgot about this. So I forgot who was even part of the first line of perfumes / fragrances, but they're doing a second line of them, and they have Emmett Smelk, Sniffledaeus, and Vanaz Bathwater. That's not what they're called, but that's what my stream called them, and now that's what they are. So I will only accept those as the name of these scents, and I will accept no other alternative. But yeah, these are going to be available, accepting orders until Sunday, December 21st. Indulge in exquisite character-inspired fragrances. You ever wanted to know what Emmett Selk smelled like? If that's the thing you're into, there you go. Enjoy. And then they just showed some samples over there. This does smell like Emmett. Oh, man. Then they showed the neck speaker for 14. I'm not crazy about these things, but I know some people like them. This is the Panasonic wearable speaker developed with 14 Sound Team. Improves upon the previous model and comes with a special collaboration design. Just showed them using it briefly. They reminded people that there's the collector's edition digital upgrade sale underway. That's been underway, and it's only going to be for a couple more days, so, you know, it's not too long. Patch note reading, December 16th. They do this every patch. And then we have one last thing. A lot of people have been asking, when are they going to talk about Ultimate? Now, first of all, they aren't, because the next Ultimate's not till 7.5X. There's no point in them bringing it up in 7.4 and the 7.4 live letters. It wouldn't make any sense. But we still got an Ultimate announcement all the same. because they're hiring game testers in Japan temporarily with the job requirement of having experience with clearing ultimate content. They are hiring beta testers for the next ultimate right now in Japan. That's crazy. We have never seen them do that, but that clearly tells us they want to, starting in mid-January 2026, and a second round of recruiting to follow at a later date. Now, I'm curious about this. Now, I will say this. This doesn't mean they are necessarily recruiting players to do ultimate content testing. I think that's what it means, because why else would that be your requirement? But my more curious thing is the timing. A second round of recruiting will follow at a later date. And I still have cat hair in my mouth. Patch 7.5 should be in early May, and 2 weeks after that should be Ultimate, if we're following pattern. So, 3 months, mid-January, is that second recruiting, is that after the 3 months? Because keep in mind, if you're doing mid-January, so let's go February, March, April, there should only really be 1 more month before Ultimate comes out. So I wonder if this has anything to do with Ultimate, if it has something to do with another piece of content, or what that means timing-wise. And unfortunately, it is one of those things where, without knowing more, all we can do is speculate, and that means doom and hope. And doomium and hopium are two of the most dangerous drugs on this planet. There are more people addicted to both of them, both separately and simultaneously, than any other drug in the entire world. So, I hate when we're kind of left wondering about stuff like this. But I'm very curious to see if this just ends up being them getting more testers in for ultimate content. And if this will stretch much past that April date. Or if they're going to look for even more recruits mid-February or mid-March, and then still the idea is to have it released by that mid-May, maybe even early June timing that we're predicting for Ultimate. For all we know, it could be for a chaotic, and it could be that they just want people who are highly skilled to help test the new chaotic fight. It could also be for Fort Tower Magic, they want really high skilled players to help test the Savage version of that. There's a lot of possibilities. This does not necessarily mean an ultimate, but I think most of us assume because of the specific job requirements that they're probably looking at something like that. It could just, but yeah, they could just want really good players for even something like Fort Tower. Who knows? And we do also know that Mr. Ozma said they are developing something that he thinks will feel new and refreshing for 7.5x. Something that is not announced at the moment. So, it's all question marks. 7.5's too backloaded, man. And the speculation is not helping in that regard. So, anyway, I like even this, the zoom in, zoom, zoom, zoom. Thank you, Aluna, for that one. And then you just talked a little bit about their starting wages when they were working and how apparently Mr. Ozma started at Square Enix as a temporary employee, much like the temporary employees that they're looking for with this setup. And now he's the head of the battle division. So, just saying. It means maybe they're trying to pipeline getting some people to working for Square as game developers in the battle content department. It's entirely possible. Who knows? But anyway, that was it. There was one last picture missing the screenshot pointed out by some. Yeah, that was one of the other weapons that they showed from earlier that there was a screenshot missing for. And that is going to be it for the patch 7.4 part 2 live letter. So there were definitely a few surprises. Getting to see the raid planner in action, definitely the highlight for me. The new PvP mode looks okay, but again, it's just too similar to Onsol for me. And then, of course, we had some of the other stuff at the end. You know, the ultimate thing is obviously going to be leading to a lot of speculation. Command panel looks really good. I can't wait to do Final Fantasy XIV, but I can only play using the command panel. Still question marks about Variant and Criterion's reward structure, which was probably the biggest problem that I think it had before, and it was not even remotely discussed. So now I'm going to be huffing on Doomium for the next however many months until we find out what it is. And then just going over some of the stuff that we already know and knew. Of course, the music with Rage Against the Machine. It was busy. It's been a very busy last couple of live letters, and this was another exciting one, including a very, very hype trailer. But I have been awake since 4 in the morning, and it's now 11 a.m. So I think we're going to wrap up this recording, and I'm going to hang with my stream for a little bit. I got State of the Realm later. I got Raid later. I am ready to pass out already, and I am hungry. So thanks for watching on the YouTube side. This is going to be posted on YouTube hopefully within the next hour. So if you tuned in live while I was recording it and you missed some of it, you can rewind if you're a sub, but also that. And thank you for watching on the YouTube side. Be sure to like and subscribe and stay tuned. We'll be covering all the latest stuff for 7.4 as well as my usual contents on the channel. With that, thanks for watching, and I'll see all of you in the next video. Until then, take care.